Welcome back. My name's Adrian.
My name is Aaron.
My name is Doris.
And this is To Teach One. Just real quick before we get into anything else, a recap of last week. Last week was
the Colfax Marathon.
Colfax Marathon. We talked a little bit about that. Well, when I say we, I meant Aaron talked about that. We tried to be supporting roles.
Yeah, I talked a lot last week. Yeah, it was a little bit caffeinated.
Yeah, we made sure that his caffeine levels are
readjusted,
recalibrated, all those things.
Hold on one second. I'm going to talk for about 20 minutes. All right. So, yeah, it was good times. Good times. And Ricky was with us. Ricky was
thanks again. Thanks again to Ricky.
Yeah.
And so we talked about the marathon a little bit, the history and other things about that. If you really want to catch up with that episode, feel free to do so. You can find us at 2teachone.com. That's www.2teach1.com. That's 2teachone.com.
2teachone.
And if you want to find us on whatever podcast app that you use, you can type in the number 2 TEACHONE. That's
ONE.
To Teach One.
To Teach One, yeah. Oh, what's interesting is those of you who did listen to last week's episode, I finally made a decision, and I'm going to do the half marathon and not the urban 10 miler. Yeah, because I wanted to get that 13.1 under my belt. So,
I mean, you can certainly do it. You've ran a few of those already, so.
Yeah, just on my own. People think I'm strange.
This is it's a formality. Doing this on the day of is just a formality.
Right.
All right. So, now today's kind of an interesting day. It's Easter. It's also 420. And Ma, we have you back finally.
What's 420?
420? 420 was, I mean, at this point, I don't think it's that big of a deal. Everyone, okay, maybe not everyone. I don't smoke weed.
Yeah, we are the only 4 non-stoned people in Denver, I believe.
Right now?
Correct.
Almost certainly.
Almost certainly, yes.
Almost certainly. We're the only 4 people that have not partaken of the shrub. Technically, it's a type of weed.
Okay.
Yes.
But anyway. So, Ma, welcome back.
Thank you.
How long have you been gone now?
Seems like a very long time. Is it a month? 4 weeks?
Has it been 4? I don't think. 3 maybe? I believe it's 3.
I believe it's
3
3.
weeks?
Yeah, I believe it's 3.
See? It feels like 4 months.
I know how.
Well, 4 weeks.
A lot of things have happened in that time, so.
So, yes, a lot of things have happened. There's been a really good changes. Like, I no longer own a car. I am taking the train.
Wow.
That's a big deal for me. For the people who know me, I had never taken the train in my life. And the light rail in Denver. I've ridden on a train. So it's that's helping me increase my exercise because I'm walking from home to the train station, and then I walk from that's about 2 blocks, and then I walk from the train station when I get to work, and that's another 2 blocks. So I'm really feeling good. I get to the office, I feel more motivated, I have more energy, and I just feel very empowered. Yeah. It's a baby step for me.
Yeah.
And it might be quite negligible for other people, but it's a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm on the right track, and we'll see. Who knows what's going to happen in the future? Maybe I'm going to be walking to work.
Well, you know what? I think maybe what we can figure out in the future is, and I think this is a good segue. We have a guest with us today. Yeah. Her name's Bridget Farrell. She's with us today. She actually runs the gym that we work out at. If you've been listening, you can work out where that is. But how you doing, Bridget?
I'm doing good.
Welcome.
Yeah,
Thank you, guys.
I know we've been working on getting you in here. We asked, and you were nice enough to decide to join us, and we're happy about that. So maybe at some point you can come and join us at some point in the day, because there's lots of people that work they come to the gym.
Oh, right. And you're close by now.
Yeah, you're pretty close.
At this point, first of all, thank you very much for the invitation. At this point,
that was very sweet, Doris.
I associate exercising in a gym with, crashing after that. So I don't know if I'm allowed to bring an air mattress so that I can.
You know what? So here's the thing. It's a little bit of the opposite. I mean, everyone has at first it may feel that way, but it makes you feel energized, which is, I mean, you're currently feeling some of those benefits. You talked about how you walk those, 2 blocks to the station and then, another 2 to the office from downtown, right?
Yes.
You're already doing it. It's just.
Well, the difference is I'm using the legs God gave me, and I'm not using man-made machines. And
that's true.
So that's why I call it a baby step, but I'm utilizing what I have. I don't want to have any excuses.
Okay.
About not knowing how to use any machines. So I'm going to get there.
Yeah,
I'll
baby
get
steps.
there.
No. We didn't say tomoror. Sometime.
I'm probably going to be
Doris, from here. That's where we're going.
Yes, I'm probably going to be teaching an exercise class.
So now you're going to be teaching. You just skipped.
Nice, I like that huge jump.
That's
just right over the participants. Straight to
good job. That's a bold move. I like that.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Why aim for anything less than the best?
Yeah.
Right?
Why
exactly.
do so?
Doris, I would take your class. Hands down, I already know I would take your class.
I think you would love it.
Does it include a nap afterwards?
I feel
Yes,
like
it does.
There might be a
you know what?
mattress.
Yeah.
You will have the most popular class.
Yeah.
Yes. This is a class where people are going to be, on the list of things to buy for the class. There's going to be an air mattress.
I'm totally into that. Yeah.
That doesn't sound bad at all.
Exactly.
It is interesting what you said, though, because I know when I first started working out, I would crash after I worked out. And then once I got used to it, then it becomes where you're energized by it. But there is that period at the beginning where it does make you extremely tired.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah.
especially
I
a
can
lot
sympathize.
hard exercise.
Yeah.
Yes.
Walking energizes me.
Yeah.
But anytime I have to jump up and down and do things on benches.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah. That's vigorous, type of activity.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you can start with, walking to the gym, right?
Say hi,
give
say hi
everybody
to
a
us.
High five. Yeah.
Bam.
High five. Bam. And then walk
And
on
then
back.
walk back.
Yeah. It'd be kind of fun.
It's more of the destination than it is the...
Yes.
Yes.
So let me ask you. Okay, that sounds very good. And let me ask Bridget. So, is there a dress code?
Well, see, this is interesting because we're naturally segued into what our topic is going to be, right?
Right.
Because, so what we noticed, Adrian and I were talking a couple weeks ago, and we talk a lot about fitness. We go to the gym a lot. We really enjoy it. And of course, this podcast is about health and wellness, which isn't, just about fitness, but fitness is a part of that. So what we realized was being men, we come from a very male-centric point of view, which is understandable. But what we wanted to do was broaden our horizons. And we wanted to understand what some of the difficulties, what some of the challenges, the things that we didn't know as men happen for women at the gym. And so that's why, we knew that Doris had begun this new journey. We knew Bridget, and so we wanted to talk to her about that. And what we're going to do, now is we're going to discuss that. But first, we wanted to know a little bit about Bridget, because she hadn't really gotten a chance to introduce herself.
Oh, okay, great. Well, my name is Bridget Farrell. First of all, I would like to thank all of you guys for inviting me into a discussion. I think the topic is pretty good, and already even these little comments coming from Doris as far as the perspective that I think we'll cover today, which is another important one, and that is from somebody who might not be all that comfortable in an environment that is knee deep in fitness. So, right. So my background, I kind of initially getting invited in, I thought, well, I certainly manage a facility that has a number of fitness components in it. How I got there is not necessarily a background of kinesiology and recreation management, or even what is the word that I'm thinking of? Anatomy. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. Okay.
Sorry.
It's okay. Don't run.
I know. But as far as my background, it kind of has meandered, in some of the things as far as speaking to fitness, both professionally and personally. I feel that connection, Doris, because there was it's a commitment to make a change, and then you just kind of almost have to wait for the residual, the feel good component that usually is associated with getting your heart pumping, or just simply having the time for yourself where you're not necessarily that jump from a car into a train and not having to drive the train, unless that's something that you're doing that you haven't disclosed yet.
Which would be really cool. That'd be super cool.
I'm not sure.
That would be cool.
But that component where you're just merely setting some time aside for yourself, that it can generate and cultivate a lot of different things. And I think that's usually one of the bigger challenges of work and life, and just that balance component. And so
right.
I appreciate as far as the opportunity to come in, because even though I might be in an environment that it's constantly around, I'm constantly reminded that I have to apply those things myself. Fitness and balance, and being around people who have made a jump into their own decision to better their life or their mental health or their physical being is usually motivating. And then it's also just a reminder of kind of what is available, what can our bodies do, and that can be kind of an exciting thing. Yeah. And so, yeah, my background is more quiet than fitness. However, kind of taking that time to sort of reflect on how I got where, which is always a big question for anyone to answer.
Right.
It's like, how did this happen?
Exactly. I'm really looking forward to hearing that.
Yeah. So as far as my introduction, I guess I'm happy to be here and then offer some perspective for the goals of this particular episode as a female, and then also maybe on the professional side of it. My credentials as far as being involved in fitness is specifically like in a exercise capacity, is just having a primary group exercise certificate. So in that regard, I've worked hands-on with people who have always had a fitness component in their life, or it's brand new. And so that has been interesting, combined with just, I think, my interest in always providing and nurturing things, right, and giving. So that's kind of where it's made a little bit of a match for me in at least my position. And then the reminder of how I think of fitness as that kind of reward.
Interesting.
Yeah. So do you find that your classes have particular age groups? Who is more, attracted to your exercise programs?
I think honestly, it's all over. A lot of the classes that I would teach and be in kind of that lead role, it was a huge range. I thought, my capacity in teaching was, I had an awesome opportunity to work with some very strong individuals who taught for years and years before I even was in the realm of, on a business side, delivering fitness services. And so I had an opportunity to sort of shadow under somebody. And funny enough, my interests kind of were hiking and running and yoga. And there I was in a boot camp type of a format, which some people are like, ooh, as far as the invitation, Doris's face, exactly, eyebrows up. No pass. But, maybe it's because a lot of that, there's certainly so many different fitness services out there where you can really dive into, if you do want a particular experience, I guarantee it's out there. So, as far as my role, I'm pretty warm individual and I want people to feel comfortable. So boot camp, kind of the title, as many people might think of it right off the bat, it was quite different. It was not.
I imagine.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and for people who do know me, I think that was always kind of like, if I could be a fly on the wall, watch you do boot camp, I'm like, it's still just me leading the boot camp, and, but as far as the age range, your question on that, I was thinking right away it was going to be this target audience of people who really wanted extreme. And so for me, it's not always the case, but my mind went immediately to a younger clientele thinking, the 20s, people who they just want to go big and they want to, leave everything there, drench themselves in sweat, and then maybe even tell somebody what they did, like their
Right.
interest in fitness may be hitting a number of different categories for motivation. But our youngest was around like 28, but our average was 45, the oldest being 60.
Really?
Wow.
So, one of the beautiful things I think that I always prescribe with, and the people that I've worked with always prescribe to the same thing, is everybody walking in is at a different point of their lives and their interests and their physical abilities. And
Right.
so you really have to honor that and make sure that you're keeping everybody safe and you're providing modifications and you're making them feel success no matter what. And even down to the delivery, paying attention to the words you choose, and staying away from the words like can't. If you can't do this, you can do this.
Right.
If you can't,
Yes.
Yeah.
just all those little nuances. So it's not like a immediate eyebrow up, big eyes, and not for me, like kind of a response. So,
So do you find mostly that people have unrealistic expectations?
that's an interesting question. I think for the most part, people have a good understanding of themselves. I think as far as goals, certainly, we've all caught ourselves in a moment of setting a goal that we don't know how we'll get to that goal.
Yeah.
But as far as, certainly in the fitness industry, I think that injuries sometimes can occur because people, go too quick and they don't really know the terrain that they need to go through in order to get to the top of the mountain, but some of that is really up to the individual. I think that a lot of us have that, break that we're ready to hit it if we start feeling uncomfortable and, listening to our own bodies. But certainly it's such an individual thing, but yeah, I have never experienced somebody who is shooting for something that I don't think is attainable. It's just a matter of how you get there.
Okay, so that leads us perfectly into the specific topic that we're going to be discussing today, which I kind of mentioned earlier, which is a woman's perspective from working out. So we have, Doris, it was kind of a newcomer, right? And we have Bridget, who is, runs a fitness facility, and then they both happen to be women. Right. So that we have this unique perspective that we can use. And then what we're going to do is some of these questions are from Adrian and I, or from men in general, things that we didn't know and we wondered about. And then some of it's going to be a discussion between Bridget and Doris about fitness and then what a uniquely would be a woman's perspective when she wants to get into fitness or wants to move on to those things. And so I think Adrian has the first question that we as men had.
Yeah, so you guys were talking about group fitness, and I remember because we usually meet before we come into the studio, just to build rapport and talk about what we're going to discuss. And one of the things that our questions was, is it true that women have more balanced workouts than men? And you had some interesting points to make about that, when we spoke last week, Bridget.
Yeah, definitely. This as far as kind of like my experience, and then also doing a little bit of, one of the things of being here and having the honor of being here is to give my perspective, but also to have taken a little bit of time to get out of my own perspective, to think out of the box. That's why I think it'll be really interesting to hear some of Doris's responses to these questions. But, as far as the balanced workout, in some cases, and being in a fitness facility, when I try to pitch different things to, say the normal weight and strength conditioning group that is going strictly into the weight room, when I'm pitching, join me upstairs for yoga, and it's just
like you did me.
There are guilty parties in this room who have stood me up. They're aware. I'm aware. Yeah.
I'll make it there. Yes. One day.
Hopefully you guys listening will hold him accountable to that. But it's kind of interesting because some of the things that we had kind of discussed is that group setting is kind of a safe environment. And
right.
Whether or not that kind of I could define women having a more rounded workout, because I do know individuals who do strength and flexibility and cardio, and they are very balanced. As far as the exposure component that I think maybe female clientele have a stronger history with is due to this group setting, and group fitness, having that certification and going through some of those, the practicum as well as the educational component is really rooted in the idea of community. Like there's a big social component of success and camaraderie and interaction that sometimes is not necessarily, in a strength setting of just hitting up the weight room, it can be very individual until you break into conversations with other lifters.
It's true. It's very true. Yeah, we find that.
So as far as a female, and kind of, Doris had sort of alluded to the intimidation factor earlier before we started recording, and then also even in certain programs like maybe boot camp, you're walking into an area that doesn't have an openly right out of the gates social component. And so as far as the safety in numbers that group fitness can sometimes invite, I feel like that is a little bit of a tipping point that could contribute to then an individual and a female going into a different type of class because she's made a connection with somebody in the class, or maybe the instructor themselves teach in a number of different capacities, like a cycling class, and then maybe they're yoga certified.
Oh, yeah.
And then the clients start that rapport, and they will check out these different classes, or fellow people in the class will, I start to trust Doris in class. We have a good time. And then she says, I'm going to go and do this Zumba class, and I may have no coordination at all, but I'm going to take it with Doris. So then I get this exposure of a different cardio, agility, lateral movement component that I was not getting elsewhere.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
So as far as it being balanced, I mean, I definitely don't want to take away from the male component and the successes of a balanced workout there. However, that I definitely see. And being in a role where I have led group fitness, it's overwhelmingly percentage you will see females as far as kind of more of the choreographed and led. I mean, you can go into different CrossFit classes that may have a higher male attendance.
Right.
But
it's interesting.
Yeah, like the Pilates and yoga classes that I have seen, and then even Zumba, or some of our HIIT classes and group training classes at the facility that I manage will have a good mix of people. But sometimes it's a tough sell when I'm trying to talk to the guys to go to any of these classes.
Yeah, I know for myself, the reason why I did that was because I was quite athletic, growing up. I mean, all the way from when I was a little kid. I mean, sports is, something we do, quite a bit of, back home. you don't have to belong to a specific sport. Like we just have like these sports days everyone belongs to. It's kind of like the Hogwarts thing. There's like 4 different groups, like, and they usually, it's like, they give them names like by animal, like, elephant, lion, whatever, or colors, right?
Okay.
And so every day, at the end of the day, you go and have sports time.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So it's not like a very organized, type of deal, but, you pick a sport that you're going to do and, you go have fun and, be a kid and run around and exert some of that energy before you go back home. So, and through that, I started, getting into more team sports and I could, really hold my own. Well, okay, no, I couldn't hold my own. I was in team sports. I had nutritionists. I had all these people like telling me what to do. And then I found myself in a situation where I didn't have that.
Right. Yeah.
And so when I came to, the gym, that was my way of getting back in, to do the classes.
Yeah.
And, man, it was rough. First of all, I was not ready. I hurt so bad. But I think, just to get back on topic, I feel like it's a more balanced, like, experience. Not necessarily it's not about the workout, based on what you're, talking about, explaining, about the group setting. It's more of a balanced, experience in that, like the social component, you get to work out. And for some people, that could be the opposite, right? Maybe they don't want that social component.
Well, you know what I wondered?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, I had a question for Doris. So, hearing us talk about this, and, you're not someone who currently goes to a gym, would you be more likely to go and join a class, or would you want to just sort of go in and find your way around?
I think, like my ideal class would be a combination of actually class time where you're learning about your body.
Well, interesting.
When it comes to exercises and what can be fixed by exercising and what you shouldn't expect. Because like when we go through childbirth and let's say you have a cesarean section, it's harder to exercise. And so from there, there's so many disappointments every time you start to exercise and you're not seeing the results. But I think there's a lack of education. So the way I would love to exercise would be a combination of classroom time where we're actually learning about our end result and how to get there successfully. Because when I look at exercise, I think about looking good. I'm exercising because I want to look good in the clothes, that I wear. I want to look good when I go to the beach. And also, I want to keep disease at bay.
Sure, yeah.
Right.
So there's so many things that go to it. And most of the time I see classes that are advertised for people who have some, what word am I looking for? Who are familiar with the way a gym operates, like a formal setting.
Yeah.
Nobody ever advertises and says, we have a group for first time, sedentary. If you just almost hate yourself for not exercising and feel like you're not going to last in an exercise class because you're going to be out of breath and there's not going to be anything pretty about the experience. Those are the people we are looking for. That's the class we are having. You don't need to know anything. You don't need to look good. You're first timers. Everybody in the class is going to be just like you.
What a great idea.
Yeah, that's a great, I think that's a really, really, really great idea because so there's the cultural component, right? And that's one of the things that you're going to talk about. So culturally, when you were growing up, maybe in school, there was sports, right? But then just like myself, you leave school and that's not necessarily part of something that is, it's not very prevalent in your life, right?
Correct.
And no one else is really doing it after school also. Or few people are doing it, right? Most people are just going about trying to do their thing. Here in the US, working out it's all over the place. I mean, it's very culturally, it's a part of what, we do here. right? And so I would have never thought, because like the standard, right, the beginner classes, even those for some are like really, really, really tough. And I mean, I had part of that experience. You know,
Absolutely. They are really the beginner class where I found myself as a woman that I attended a class and I didn't want anybody to know that I had decided to go to the gym. It was a health club. And
were you in disguise?
I was not in disguise. But I was a new girl in town.
Oh,
so I wasn't known.
You had a character.
I knew nobody would
know you.
Nobody knew me.
Right.
So I said, this is
freedom you have.
The freedom I had was just, very empowering.
Okay.
So I had already gone online and looked at the list of classes that were being offered, and I settled for, they're called silver sneakers. They're for, people who have silver in their hair.
Right.
It's the silver is not only on the sneakers. This is.
I've heard of that. I
Yes.
think I've also heard of golden sneakers too.
We have silver sneakers also at our facility.
Yes.
But I do want to say, is that why you felt like you needed to be sneaky? Because
Yes.
it's a silver sneaker.
Oh, that is
Sorry,
excellent work,
that
Bridget.
joke was for Aaron.
Thank you.
I know that only the person to my left will appreciate that.
That was
Terrible
beautiful.
of a joke.
That was beautiful.
Yeah, you know what? I didn't even think about that at the time, but that really went with my ulterior motive to be sneaky. And in that class, I just felt so comfortable because people were actually there. It was a seniors class.
Sure. Yeah.
So I knew I could keep up.
Yeah.
And this was my entry point into exercise where there was no pressure. Apart from there was a guy who was peeping
Interesting.
into the class. And
okay.
I did not make eye contact, and I was really mad about that guy. Anyway,
Maybe just throwing it out there. Maybe he was kind of trying to understand the class because he might have his intimidation.
this was a women's only class, and I prefer women only classes. Because we are similar in a lot of ways. So it was the best class I'd ever gone to, but boy, was I surprised. Those silver foxes
Right?
They had moves.
They were getting it, huh?
so fit. They had moves, and at some point, I couldn't keep up. I kind of was wondering, how long is this class going to be? And then I really gave myself grace because these women have been working out all their lives. Sure. They just didn't show up at a silver sneakers class.
Right.
These are, oh my goodness. They had muscle mass. I was really, really, really encouraged. And I continued going to that class, and I really loved it.
Wow, okay.
So,
that's great.
What's interesting is Cassandra still goes sometimes, and she works out with this distinguished ladies.
yes.
Yeah, she definitely does. And you should next time we see them, talk
Yes.
to her about that, because she's involved in that kind of stuff and she loves it.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very, very good. It's called the Longevity Club.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting too, though,
Like
is
that title.
you alluded to something, because I've told several of the women that I know that this is a show that they might want to check out because it's going to be specifically about women in the gym. And to a lady, they all brought up the main issue, right? So I think gyms were, even in this country, originally very male centric, right? And I think
like everything else.
Yeah, exactly, like everything else. And over the past few years, though, our culture has gone through this enormous shift, right? And I know I've mentioned it to Bridget and to Adrian. I always think of the beginning of Magnum P.I., which was a show that was in the early 80s. And there's just this scene, and it's very casual in the intro, came on in every episode, and this man is running into the ocean, and he sees an attractive woman and he just slaps her on the behind as he's running, and she responds with kind of like, she turns around and like giggles. And that just for me kind of sums up this cultural attitude that we had for the longest time. And so these ladies that I talked to, their first and most emotional point was they felt uncomfortable many, many times at the gym for the specific reason that Doris mentioned, that men tend to not know how to react to women at a gym, right? Mm-hmm. And I think it's this. I don't know really where it comes from, and we could talk a lot about male psychology and stuff, but it's just an issue, right? And so, how men and women should relate at the gym was one of the questions that Adrian and I had, for ladies.
Yeah, what are the rules of engagement? Well, there's two things, right? And I think they're very closely related. There was two questions. So, what things do men do at the gym that women hate? And that list could probably run forever. So I mean,
Yes.
so this, and so far we figured out like at least a couple that are pretty much standard. Whoever we ask, right? But also, I mean, I think they do kind of go hand in hand. What are the rules of engagement? Because I think if there are rules of engagement and you're not following them, you're doing things that women hate.
Yes, I think, yes, they go hand in hand. I totally agree. Yeah.
It's one or the other.
Right. So what are the rules of engagement, like ethics wise, when you're at the gym, okay? What is it? Like, what are we doing? What are we not doing?
Sure. Doris, do you want me to start?
Yes, please.
Okay. Well, I think what's kind of interesting about it, even though I tried to give the benefit of the doubt in the silver sneaker peeker story.
Silver sneaker peeker.
I love it.
Silver sneaker.
That was good. I think you're a natural.
Yeah, silver sneaker picker stalker. I just had to throw that in.
We'll just keep adding to it. The next person go.
Silver sneaker picker. I love that.
Well, one of the things I would say, in general, there's probably a huge list of non-gender specific things that just are like nails on a chalkboard for anybody who's in a fitness kind of setting, from the non-wiping down the weights or cutting in or not sharing or, monopolizing and it's a shared space. And whenever you're in a shared space, you want to be respectful. But that respect looks very different. So I kind of thought that this was an interesting question because I don't want to speak for everybody, but, my perspective when I go in for a workout is, this is my time. This is completely my time. Right. Conversationally, kind of checking in. If I have to unplug my headset or take out an earbud, I told Aaron and Adrian, the place better be on fire. And you're coming up to tell me right. where the exit is. Because, or something courteous. Obviously, I'm not a stonewall, and people who know me, I would engage, but it is a very, kind of sacred time. Mm-hmm. And if you go in to really, engage in yourself and your abilities and invest in it. And if it's new, and it took a lot to get in there, you kind of, once you get into a focused point and you're comfortable and you're moving around in the gym, the last thing you want to have is a realization that people are watching you.
Sure.
And as far as that, the big question, what do I hate? I'd say one of the biggest things that pops on my list is the discussion about others in the gym. So as a female, I definitely do not appreciate a backhanded compliment of somebody commenting about me to their friend in sort of a passive way. Right. And then certainly, as a bystander, it's terrible to hear what other things could be said about somebody else who's in the gym, good, bad, and ugly.
Right,
sure.
Right.
I kind of shared a line that I thought was kind of interesting when I was diving into some of the content research that I did, was just while I suspend my integrity, you need to suspend your judgment. And,
I love
you know,
that.
some people, when they go into the gym, they're, you know, and we'll probably get into a little bit more of like the attire and the choices that goes behind it, an attire as one of our subjects. But, it can be, you know, you're there for you, and it can be interruptive. So that would be that's my number one.
Yeah. It's interesting because that's what I got too from talking to some of my female friends. Not any of them were like, oh, I love it when men bother me at the gym. They all feel like it's a bother because they are there. And I like what you said. If you're in the gym working on something, you like your integrity. You're not dressed up. You're not at the grocery store. You're doing something kind of personal, and you're focused. And really, they're not there to be hit on or to be ogled or to be talked about. And it's one of those things that men just, I don't know why, but I think it may even be from when we were all in 7th grade. Like we're in a locker room again, and we're, 12, right? And because I've seen it happen at the gym, and you try not to go there, but you see other men do it, and it's bothersome, right? And I get it, because I wouldn't want that, necessarily for me. If it was unwanted attention, then you don't want that attention. Right. And it's amazing to me that every woman has mentioned it. Like, there hasn't been a woman who hasn't experienced that. That uncomfortable realization that the guy across the room is, paying attention to you just a little too much,
and watching.
Yeah,
right.
Keeping.
Just shamelessly.
Yeah.
However, I think we shouldn't assume that every woman is there for the same reason.
Correct.
Because
True.
Okay, so I start off, not even being able to wear, my best outfit to the gym because I really have nothing to show. I'm actually hiding behind my workout outfit. And then as I progress, I'm becoming this curvy woman. So as I go along, I'm changing into different outfits because I'm becoming confident.
Right.
So that as a woman, I might give vibes that I want my male counterparts to look at me, to stare at me, but I'm actually the best person to actually befriend in the gym setting, because I can tell you that this is how I started, this is where I am.
Sure.
So other women who, they're there to find somebody, and there's nothing wrong with that.
There's not. And I think,
Yes.
I totally agree, because we have discussed that too, that unlike, this is how I've come to view it, unlike in a lot of situations where society tells us that a man is supposed to, put himself out there, right? If you don't ask a woman out, she's not going to say yes. And that's changed a little bit, but I still think it's largely true. I think in the gym, the rule for me, at least, is completely opposite. So unless a woman makes it very clear to me that she would like to talk to me, then I just assume that she is here to work out. And, if I see her half a dozen times and we say hello, sure, right? But it's really up to her to initiate that conversation and that contact, so that I know I'm not being just kind of creepy. Right? Because men are very visual.
Yes.
And when women dress to be comfortable, sometimes to us, as a man, you think, oh, she wants, no, like you said, she may just be feeling good about herself and she wants to dress comfortably. It has nothing to do with you.
Exactly.
So wait, I guess for all our male listeners, my advice would be just, wait until a woman makes it obvious. Because the thing is, they're not going to not make it obvious if they really want to talk to you. She'll let you know.
Yeah, but what's it's so, like, what's obvious?
I think
follow the cues.
Yeah, just the social cues.
I'm sure there's a gym etiquette.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be the person to go into that because I need to start going to the gym before I get to discuss any etiquette.
Okay.
Well, I would say it's probably, and everybody's different too.
Sure,
it's hard to define that type of engagement. There's certainly etiquette, and often it's posted on the wall.
Yes.
Yeah.
On the basic lines. But as far as like developing a relationship, and Doris, you're right, whatever, certainly it's okay. I mean, if those things happen and people meet in there, I mean, we kind of also were talking about like what's attractive, and, you know, healthy choices that might be attractive to you. I mean, I guess unhealthy choices could be attractive to other people, but I mean, if we're talking about an investment into health, and that's an attraction for you because you have also decided to invest in your health, and you think, oh, we have you know, similar interests, and this is really great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It can certainly be there, and you know, as far as like the cues and things like that, I would say that for sure that the attire component, I think often it does, like your confidence in your work. I mean, that's a reward that you're feeling, and you can feel it in your body. You know, loss of weight can feel better on the joints, you know, and like you're increasing your own flexibility, and maybe you're kind of carving muscles that you were surprised that they were kind of ready to react and respond. And so you may start playing around with your attire, and then you're in this gym setting. And I mean, even some of it even comes down to, it's easier to move, like my range of motion, you know, like,
yeah, absolutely.
You're not in there in jeans trying to do a deep squat because something's going to rip.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know,
We'll have buttons flying.
right.
Yeah, and to go back to your earlier question, it's funny because that is one of the posted where you talked about what is the attire, right? Where's the dress code? And one of them it just says no denim.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's some people who try to walk in all the time, like dressed, like straight off the street, out of this. I mean, and some people wear athletic stuff, but these people aren't in athletic gear. I'm talking, you know, almost like jeans and boots.
No, I saw a guy in there the other day working out in jeans and boots.
And boots, right?
Get me.
Serious?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
Get me. No, well, it's, so sorry.
Yeah,
As an advocate
Sheriff's
for,
in
as,
town.
oh my gosh, I am such the bad cop all the time. But, you know, on behalf of the upholstery, please don't tear up the upholstery. However, it is motivating though to see people who are just, I'm doing it right now. And they just go for it with no limitation based on the fact that they're in Levi's, you know?
Yeah.
Like at Red Rocks is a great example. I love going up there for a workout. And so often people look like they came up there to take a couple of pictures, and, you know, they brought a lunch maybe, and they're just walking around, and they just get so moved by the fact that people are running the stairs and doing plyo jumps off all the different bleachers. And I've just seen groups of people who are just sitting there and soaking it in, and they look like they're in their Sunday's best. And then they start doing tricep dips, and it's beautiful. Like awesome. It's like a wonderful kind of breakthrough. And in that case, I mean, there is no judgment. I laugh now because it is kind of like, that's great, you know, but it's more of a joy of the moment for them. Like, just go for it, you know, and let nothing be in your way.
Absolutely.
But yeah, let me know if you see denim.
Yeah, so denim. Because I can mess with that equipment,
Yeah, no denim and no steel toe.
Definitely
Boots?
no steel toe.
Definitely no steel toe.
Okay, just checking.
But
those are dangerous anyway.
That is such an interesting topic, though, as far as, in general, society has come to realize this. The way that a woman is dressed has absolutely nothing to do with whether or not she wants to talk to you, right? She's just, like you said, she's just in the gym. She's looking better. She's got, you know, she wants a range of motion. She feels good when she looks in the mirror, and that's what it's about, you know, and then the social cues. And you just run into that everywhere where there are guys that have no clue on how to talk to a woman or realize when she's interested versus when she's not, or...
Yeah, I'm a perfect example of that. I'm the most oblivious person on the planet.
Well, no. I don't mean it in that way.
Oh,
right?
okay.
I'm not saying like oblivious to times when a woman is interested. I think every man suffers from that.
Okay.
Right?
That's good to know.
You know, like you leave the room and why didn't you ask her out? And you're like, what? Huh? I don't know.
I'm always that guy. Everyone's like, she's still into you.
Because I just think in general, women are more attracted to you when you're not just like all focused on them, right? You're about your business, and anyway. But that's a whole nother conversation, right?
Right.
What I'm talking about is the man that doesn't realize when he has approached a woman, and she is polite, but she is obviously not interested,
Right.
And now it's time to move on, right? You ask. You say, hey, do something. And she's like, well, I'd love to, but I'm really busy and blah, blah, blah. And the thing is I think what I've learned, this is just me. Like, if she doesn't say yes, like if she's not like, yeah, I'd love to do that, it's a no. Right. So if she says, I'm like really busy right now. I have a lot going on, and, it would be super nice, but, I've my dog, I got to go to the vet, and,
yeah, that's definitely a sign.
No, it is.
A long list. There's 5 reasons.
If she looks at her phone and she's like, oh, that's a text. My cat just told me it's time for a bath.
Yeah, gotta leave.
Yeah, you need to go away.
Well, that's what I mean. Is just, men not picking up on that, and women being in a situation where they're a little more vulnerable than usual, and it makes them uncomfortable. Like this girl I was talking to today, she was telling me she has gone to working out only in the gym at where she lives because she's tired of, going to the gym and having to worry about guys looking at her, or what she said happens. And it was funny because Adrian and I were talking about that. We don't know if it's men bothering her on the machines. So she gets on the machine, she's got her earbuds in, right? Mm-hmm. And next thing you know, she get a tap on your shoulder, like, are you almost done with that? And we were wondering whether that was men trying to hit on her, or was it just this male-centric thing, like, hey, I'm a guy, you need to get off that machine. And we're not really sure, but either way, just being bothered by men. And so I like what Doris had to say. Maybe part of that solution is to, I know they have women's only gyms, or like, what is it, that place called Curves? It's focused for women.
Yes, I've been there.
Where you don't have to worry about the guy that just doesn't understand that, staring at you for 20 minutes is not a compliment.
Well, and there's the component too that, that need to help. And I'm a helper, but I think that was one of the other kind of responses when I kind of cast a net out to other individuals, like that. Let me get those weights. Let me, adjust the seat. A lot of these pieces of equipment there's an educational component about it. And sometimes that can be a bit intimidating. So you walk in and, there's levers and there's pins and then there's plates and, then there's all these other things around you similar, and they're all moving and they're being used. And so it can be a bit overwhelming. And so there may be somebody in the gym who sees that and genuinely does want to come and help. And, it's hard, like you said, to vet out the intention of an individual is going to be difficult. And you just kind of have to, I guess, trust your gut and, depends on what your goals are to be there. But part of getting comfortable is going through those growing pains of looking at the machine and trying to figure out do I stand there, or does what happens here, and you don't want to get anything pinched.
Right.
Yes.
And that's where you got to ask, because even I, some of those machines, I'm like, what does this thing do? And it took me a little bit before I was so comfortable with the staff at where we work out that I was able to just be like, hey, I have no idea what this is. Like, I've been looking at it for like 4 months now. And somebody be like, oh, this does this and that. And
I'm like, that's the elevator.
That's the elevator. You know what it was? It was
just kidding.
The thing that I was looking at for a minute, and that our friend Lou helped me with. There are these so on the pulley machines, there's this little extra thing that I thought maybe was some kind of pad for if somebody was pulling it too hard at the top. But what it really is it's a 5-pound weight.
Oh yeah, it's an extra weight.
Yeah, it's an extra weight.
It's a 5-pound increment.
So I sympathize. And I'm someone who, I've been in and out of gyms my whole life, and I thought I had some experience. But here's this thing I could not figure out what it was, and it took me, I don't know, half a year before I gathered up the courage to admit that I didn't know what it was, and I really wanted to know. And I just asked Lou, I'm like, what is this? And he was like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Which is a perfect kind of encouragement, Doris, for you. Because often, in a gym setting, if talking about the real rules of engagement, maybe you don't want to open that door for your silver sneaker peeker to come and help you, but you can rely on the staff there to kind of let you know what's kind of going on. And especially because a lot of these pieces of equipment, the idea, you know, we've moved away from just like, you know, such standard pieces of equipment that it's a lot more intuitive in most cases.
Right.
And it's built for a lot of people, you know, like you can decrease weights, you can add an increment of 5 rather than doing a jump to 15 where you're like, okay, how do I build off this? And, you know, all the sort of machines and getting comfortable with them. But, yeah, I mean, as far as that.
So as a woman, when I come and enroll in the gym, do I have like an orientation to the machines? And
I would, you know, it's not uncommon that you would see orientations. We have a couple of things sort of designed in our facility where it's almost like an introduction through a class setting where you get led. And we do have kind of a gradation for the different audiences. Like we do have a 50 plus, you know, specific for this age group.
So you have a silver sneaker group?
Yeah, we do. Absolutely. We have a silver sneaker group. Yeah.
And now I have a question. So the silver sneaker group, do you have different types of classes for them where you actually do some weight training using the machines and stuff like that?
Yes and no. So, the silver sneakers, you know, as far as like where we are with them, we have kind of a partnership type of a thing. And so we have classes throughout the city that are dedicated silver sneakers. And often what you find in that, like on the back burner or behind the scenes, is that it's a very strict format of a class. And so everybody who's certified specifically to teach a silver sneakers class follows this exact kind of format, which is really good. That's because
really good.
It's a little bit of the Starbucks of fitness because you can walk into any of them, and if you know the title, you know the format, and so there's no big surprises, and you can build off of that. So there's a sense of progression and familiarity as you go through those classes. However, we do have classes that are geared towards a 50 plus, but it may not be formated like a silver
silver sneaker. So it would be a graduation, I think, for me. And that's it's good to know that you have a silver sneakers.
Right.
I think that should be the first class any woman goes to who has not been exercising. Just so, you know, it just takes out the pressure. And I would really, really encourage women to start at a really comfortable level where you're with other women and there's, you know,
you can relate.
You can relate and it's, you know, it's just feels more relaxed and
connected a bit.
Yes.
You know, we've asked a couple questions. The one thing that I wanted, because the whole point is sort of that even as men, we don't even know what we're missing, right? We don't even know what we're not asking.
Exactly.
Because I know when you talked about C-section, we have another friend who was talking about just the difficulties of looking the way that she did, even through exercise, before she had that C-section. So what I wondered was from Bridget and you know, from Doris, what do you think that we don't know, right? That you thought about, that a man may not even really realize about a woman's difficulties at the gym or the challenges that she goes through?
Sure. Do you want me to start, Doris?
Yes, please. Again?
Well, there's so many different things about how individuals are built to begin with, and then when we're talking about the actual body of male versus female, there's a lot of differences. You know, kind of what Doris had started talking about with, you know, even cesarean and birthing a child. I mean, the whole component within the hips and the flexibility in there to actually deliver a baby without being ripped in half, you know, is a pretty special thing, but it also has a dynamic element within health and wellness and fitness and kind of like the recovery associated after having a child, but also whether you have children or not, kind of what your body may have been built to be able to do. And so when we're talking about kind of, what was the term? I actually had jotted down a couple of things, but the Q angle. So the Q angle of how hips go in towards knee. Like the Q angle is kind of like the angle that's getting measured from the exterior of your hip down to the middle of your patella. And it kind of, and I'm not going to go diving into too much anatomy because earlier, if you don't remember, I couldn't even think of the word anatomy during my first glitch. But basically, there's a lot of different things that, as far as how your quad is moving because of how it's formed and it's hatched. And then it's creating a lot of different tension on a patella or on the kneecap, that maybe the male's body generally is not feeling that. And therefore you're talking about a different workout plan, a different routine and program that is built for the woman's body, and even the, the pelvic floor and everything kind of in that sacral area. There's a lot of movement and things that occur after childbirth that, you have to restore. And, what that looks like can be, on a huge spectrum of things. This will be a little side note, so reel me in if I go off into uncharted waters. But one of the things as far as like the reflection of, my intro, which I told the guys that was the big like, ooh, I'm struggling with an intro. One of the first times that I really was like, wow, like subconsciously, obviously I enjoyed just being active. I wasn't a super athlete. However, I was always out and playing tag and, until it was dark. And, we would play. We just always played. We were active. But when I was going through school, I had those wonderful moments of like, you're about to graduate and you're missing one core class. And so I had to go down to the campus to do that. And so in order to motivate myself, I did all these other electives to get me down there because it was so easy to just hit the snooze alarm and not be there for the 8 a.m. class. But if I got down there, I paid for parking and I did all that stuff, then I was going to be there. And so I took all these physical education classes and they had an educational component, but they were also a lot of classes. And one of the instructors, or teachers that I took from had an amazing story of, giving birthing 7 children. And she had some serious trauma in losing one of her children. And she just shared that. And she taught a Pilates class, a number of classes, but she really was focusing on rebuilding the pelvic floor after childbirth. And that was such a big deal, for just even keeping things together.
Exactly. Yes.
Which that would be probably something that men don't really know about.
They don't really know about it. So what happens? I find that most of the time, when a woman gets to menopause, that's when, if they had not done anything about strengthening their pelvic muscles, so it catches up around that time in perimenopause and into menopause. And
what's perimenopause?
Perimenopause precedes menopause.
Okay.
Although some women do kind of have a very it's not gradual.
Okay.
It's different for different women. So at that point, then your husband is involved in it because then you're having prolapse, your uterus, you have uterus prolapse, you have bladder prolapse, because those muscles that hold things up
are dropping out.
Yes.
So what is prolapse?
So first, I think, before I answer your questions, women tend to lose muscle mass.
Okay.
Faster than men.
Okay.
And then gain abdominal fat. So a prolapse is, you asked
Wait, did you mean abdominal fat?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So the woman in your life is going to change gradually as you age together. and it's going to be totally different from the way you are aging. So muscle mass, if it's not kept, if women don't continue working out and increase their protein intake, then they're losing muscle faster than a woman who is actually exercising. Then you get, and because of losing muscle mass, that's why parts are prolapsing, the uterus and the bladder. So prolapse is when things fall, and they fall like the uterus actually is protruding from the vagina. And it's like a cone shaped. I know all this sounds just really like crazy for the two men we have here, but that is a fact. And so women need surgery for that. Okay. And they need different kinds of exercise. And, you know, I always find it so, it's wonderful when women exercise in partnership with their spouses. Mm-hmm. Women are rightfully very, very private about exercise results and what is it that what are you trying to achieve? Right. You know, when your boyfriend or your spouse asks you, and it's almost very, very private because it's embarrassing. You know, when exercise is not, you're not successful, and you really don't look as good as you used to. So that's why I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Bridget, that women want to go for liposuction. You know, that's kind of like the instant gratification, and you get instant results. Whereas your gym instructor is asking you to exercise maybe 5 days a week to get to your desired results, and then for a long period of time, like in a year, you'll see results. Mm-hmm. They're so minimal. And once you've had something like a cesarean section, because of the scar of where you had the surgical scar. Incision, exactly, yeah. Incision. So the scar that forms there, it's very hard to exercise because that, you know, to firm up your abdominal muscles, we always have this little fold. It's like a little fold. And I can tell you, I don't know what Bridget has to say, but it doesn't go with exercise. It needs a knife.
Okay, so I've been thinking about this, and Aaron, I know, is also thinking about it. We literally just had a conversation with a workmate of ours, and we'll encourage her to listen to this because maybe, you know, she can get some answers, you know, that she didn't have. She is contemplating exactly what you're describing, which is going, you know, under the knife or, you know, some kind of procedure, you know, to be done. And it's because she's tried time and time again to address, you know, the area, her abdominal area, and, you know, basically, you know, she's not sure. At this point, she's certain that it's not necessarily like fat, because even when she eats really well, exercises, right, it'll only go so far, but she won't get the results that she's really looking for. Yeah. And she thinks that there's muscle, like, you know, she's not sure. So
there's tone muscles and everything.
Because she had a C-section, and she's mentioned that specifically. Is she
concerned it's like a scar tissue buildup or something like this? Maybe?
Yeah, what she was describing was something
along those lines. I know in my research, I didn't dive fully in, but I know that this is an issue that comes up a lot with women that men never have to deal with. But there's a specific series of exercises that, again, would be something that a woman might want to consult with a professional with, that women need to do, because there is something that happens with the abdominal muscles where they get separated. Yes. And it's not just normal exercises. They're not going to fix that. Exactly. And so there's always going to be that issue there, unless there's a surgical procedure or these sometimes, I think what I read was sometimes these very specific types of exercises can lessen that. But it's not really fat. It's not from eating too much. It's not from anything except what, your body changes after you give birth. Right?
Yes. So that's why women go for abdominoplasties, which is like not just the regular tummy tuck. It's where they go deeper than that, and they repair they bring together muscles and suture them and tighten them. Yeah. And then they remove the excess skin.
And then you're good to go.
And the fat, and then,
bada bing, bada boom.
Exactly. Bam.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah. But what's interesting too, from what you said though, that like I had never even, as men, we just don't think about some of those issues. But it's like a really good reason, because even if you do that, staying fit and healthy and not losing a lot of your muscle mass is just going to completely help you. You're not going to look like you're 20 when you're in your 60s, but if you continually have exercise and aren't losing that mass, that some of those later in life issues that might happen to you won't necessarily happen. And I know the same is for men in a totally different way, but it's kind of true, where you don't have to be in there looking like, well, for men, we always use the Arnold Schwarzenegger, you don't have to look like that. But just staying fit and healthy and doing some weight resistance and stuff, and just whatever it is you can do, just has so many added benefits that you really don't think about. As men, we're very visual, and so I think, I want muscles and I want to look a certain way. But it has benefits that are going to happen when you're in your 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I know it's funny because we talk a lot about how I run. The guys that I respect the most, and women, because you see them out there, and the way that they're running and the way that they're dressed, you can tell they didn't just start this. Like, they have been running probably for 40 years, and they're not stopping. They don't go as fast, then they don't look like they're having as much fun as probably as they used to, but they're not stopping. You see guys out there and women in their 70s and 80s, and they're just getting it. And that I really respect that. Even at the gym, there's a couple people who you can tell, and they're older, and they still go in there and they work out,
Well, it's kind of like what you were saying, Doris, as far as like the instant gratification. Fitness is, achieving fitness is a myth in a lot of ways, because you can certainly hit goals and you can have achievements in your own journey with fitness, but once you hit an achievement doesn't mean that it's over, unless you're ready to let that achievement go, and you want to, you do keep moving in order to go farther, and when you're talking about like how it changes over time, and certainly for women when they have, having a child, for example, that's going to be trauma on the body. Mm-hmm. And so now you're working with sometimes what feels like not even your own body. And certainly men can have those instances, plenty of people have gone through serious illness or injury where they are fighting similar sort of hurdles where it's like, okay, now I'm working with something that I'm not comfortable with or not used to, and it's my body and I don't know how to make it go. And then those who have sort of committed to the, they're still running. So, they've always run, kind of what you're talking about, Aaron.
Right.
Which could be very true. It's speculation, but there's probably a comfort and there's like a function side of it. But when it comes down to it, is that like the functional fitness, like, will I be able to get up off the ground if I were to fall, or, can I,
Exactly.
we have so many wonderful stories and passings with the clientele at the facility where, there's so much pride in, one individual was telling me, I gotta tell you this real quick. And I'm like, yeah, what's up? And I'm thinking something's going on in the gym and I gotta go be the bad guy. But
it's fun to be the boss.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
On days. But she just wanted to tell me that she was in the office and they had this delivery of boxes and they put them right by her desk and it was things that she needed. And she was going to go and ask somebody to help her move it. But then she was like, let me give it a go. And she's been coming into a circuit class where she's on the machines and she's building her weight. And, she moved it on her own. And it was like that's an achievement, you know, like to simply be able to move things in your own home without having injury or, you know, lifting things above your head and being able to get things down. Like that's the component of, you know, like not necessarily, it's like that shift of, independence, which is also like for me, I feel like I love being able to use my body. Exactly. You know, I'm not perfect. I certainly can neglect it and mistreat it at sometimes, but having the ability is the achievement, you know?
Exactly.
And so one of the mind shifts of, you know, especially for somebody who might think, oh, well, I've never thought about running. I've never run like that. I'm never going to run like that. Thinking of it more of necessarily, a self-care component. Mm-hmm. Like I want to be able to take care of myself. Mm-hmm. So I need to jump in and start swimming.
Yeah. Exactly. I think that's really, yes, because, you know, women have, you know, in housekeeping, even if let me not say just a housewife, even being a housewife, there's a lot of muscle needed. Mm-hmm. Picking up children, carrying them around, carrying their bassinets. Oh, yeah. I mean, you know, and moving boxes, you know, a box from Chewy is delivered with the hugest bag of dog food. That would be me. And then the first day I said, oh my goodness, I'll have to wait until Adrian comes to pick up that. And now I just go and pick it up and take it, you know? Great. Yeah. So it helps. It helps when you at least are able to manage your own life and to get around without depending on other people. Right. It empowers you and it makes you feel good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's what it's all about. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The empowerment piece. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Adrian, you're not going to be used anymore. Mm-hmm. Your mom's got it.
That's awesome. No, you have no idea how happy that makes me. Not because I won't do it. You know, I'll do it. It's not a big deal. I throw it under my arm and I walk off, you know. I just take it up to to where we store the stuff. Mm-hmm. But, you know, it's just really good to know that, you know, my mother has the strength, you know, to do that. And I can't count how many times I've heard that. It's a great point that you made up, right? So, for example, one day I'm in the office and there's a caseworker for one of our residents that comes over, and she's coming to pick up this individual's things, and it was like 2 giant trash bags. Okay, so she comes in, signs off for all the stuff, and then so I'm like, okay, cool. So where you parked? You know, let's go do this. She was like, oh, honey, I have 6 kids. I'm good. And then she picks everything up and just takes off. And I was like, yes.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Moms, man.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not an easy job.
And that's not an isolated, you know, situation. That's happened a few times, man. Yes. Don't mess with moms.
No.
You get a beat down.
And I love to hear that, because that kind of sums up the entire point of our podcast, right? The entire reason that we come and we do this is so people get the sense that they can achieve things. And that achievement is different for everyone. So don't judge yourself by anybody's standards. Judge yourself by how functional you are in your own life. Like, that's the real reason to get healthy. Mm-hmm. It's not really to run the half marathon. It's to be able to pick up the dog food, to pick up the kids, to not have to feel like I can't do something that I need to do. And as humans, we're just made to move. Like, we're made to, you have to keep moving and doing things. Right. And that's a huge component. And that's just one part of the component, right? I know at the gym, like, how better you feel emotionally, like, just from being able to take care of yourself, right? It's not just the doing, it's how you feel about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. I mean, I felt so good, like, recently, because before we started this project and, you know, which is leading to obviously other things, right? Mm-hmm. I remember talking to you and I was like, you know what? Before I take this on, I need to know where I'm at health-wise. And so recently I had my annual and they did the blood work and all this stuff, and just knowing, you know, my cholesterol's good and all these things, it feels good.
Yeah, I need to do the same.
It definitely feels good. And you know what? For people that want to, you know, figure out how, or just, you know, get a little bit more insight into how you can go about assessing yourself and, how to get into a fitness lifestyle, on whatever level you're at. Please feel free to listen to our second episode. Doris, myself, and Aaron, that time we were in here talking about our own journeys and, just in general, some of the things we experienced and, tips and tricks for how to, kind of get off on the right foot.
Yeah.
And it's not just about being in the gym. We also included, people that don't want to do the whole, the conventional gym thing. There's certainly, all kinds of different ways you can, stay fit. You can listen to that over at 2teachone.com. That's 2teachone.com. The number 2, TEACH, the number 1.com. And on any platform, look for us. It's the number 2, TEACHONE. And so I just wanted to throw that in there because we talked about a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, and it's interesting. We'd like to hear, especially from our female listeners, who may not feel as comfortable and don't have the experience at the gym, what are some of the issues that they have? And we would really appreciate any involvement that you can give us at the webpage or through Facebook or Instagram. You can find us on all those platforms. And just to hear what you think about what we're talking about. I know, so this is kind of a funnier question that I know men had. And I love, so we've already previously talked about some of these points, and I really liked your answer. Cause as men, we sometimes wonder, so I'll be at the gym and I'll notice this woman is working out and she has makeup on. And I look at myself and I've thrown on whatever was on the floor that day,
That's so true.
I'm in these old raggedy shorts. I'm in the same socks. I didn't even change to workout socks. I'm just in the socks I was wearing. You know what I mean? And they're all pulled up half the ankle. And I look in the mirror. I'm like, I'm awful, but I'm at the gym.
We justify it though. We're going to the gym. We're going to go get dirty, sweat, all this stuff. Who cares, right?
Yeah, and then I look over and I see a lady in makeup, right, with earrings on, and I think to myself, why did she put on makeup to come to the gym? Mm-hmm. And that's a question. I know it's kind of a more of a lighthearted question, sure. But I know that's one of the things that we wonder at, as men. Yeah. And so I pose it to you.
Well, I would say there's a long, probably list of reasons for you putting on your same socks 5 different days in a row. And
I can't do 5. What? Eventually, that becomes a problem with
that's the problem zone.
Yes, things get itchy.
You get peel. Good. Thank goodness.
Hashtag bachelor life.
Yes.
Seriously. Though I do think that there is a long list of why you might see. I mean, it kind of goes a little bit in what we talked about with the tire. There could be a confidence element,
Sure.
and comfort and things like that. I also, when I first kind of thought about that question, I thought immediately where did she come from? Where is she going?
Right.
Yes.
And then also just a side note of, who cares if,
exactly.
if she feels good and she took the time, for herself.
Right.
And now she's taking the time for herself in the gym,
Right.
Then there's the component of, she's taking care of herself however she wants to.
And it's funny because, so we thought of the questions and then you reflect on where you were even coming from while you were asking that question. And I realized later, and to my own, it's kind of one of those things where you learn about yourself. Number one, it's none of my business. Right? And seriously, it really isn't. And it's one of those man moments that you have and you realize, oh, I am a guy. And I still have some stuff to learn, because why do I care that this woman wears makeup? If she likes to wear makeup, great. If she doesn't want to wear makeup, great. If she wants to wear baggy sweats, great. If she wants to wear tight leggings, fine. None of it has anything to do with me. Right? And so when I asked some of my female friends, one of the main things she was like, well, this one girl in particular, I'm wearing makeup usually because I was wearing makeup and I went to the gym, right? It had not, it wasn't even a concern.
Right.
It wasn't anything that she thought about. And another woman mentioned to me that she knows people who, they don't come downstairs, right? They don't present themselves to the world without a little bit of makeup on. That's just part of their routine. That's just what they do. That's what they've always done. And so really going to the gym and makeup aren't related at all. And even that I posed the question just shows some of the issues that, that men and women face, just in general and especially at the gym.
Well,
right?
and comfort can look completely, and routines even.
Yeah,
People's
right.
routines.
Exactly.
You know,
Right.
you never really, we all do real weird things and,
Sure, yeah.
like as part of our routine and you don't even think twice in some
Exactly.
cases. And, I think when we were first talking about it and I like just mentioned even eating toast. Like, I mean, some people might not even think about putting on makeup the same as they didn't even think about how they made peanut butter toast
Exactly,
for the
right?
20th
Yeah.
day in a row,
Right.
Yes.
Right.
It's just, you're not skipping a beat. But, I mean, if we want to get kind of into the thick of it, obviously there's other components, like thinking of somebody who might be coming into the gym who doesn't feel like they're in control.
Yeah,
That's
I mentioned
exactly.
that. Yeah.
And there's, I was talking to one of my girlfriends and she was talking about how she feels in control if she has her nails painted. And that for her, she's a new mom and everything's chaotic and her sleep is decreased and, she's always on the go and always has throw up on her.
Yes. She has buff.
However, if her nails are done, she's just like, I
good.
can go anywhere. I'm good. Like I have some element of control. In
Right.
That is very true. And I was that girl who really felt so powerful when I had my nails done
Sure.
every 2 weeks. And that stopped. And I feel that stopped, but it stopped after 8 years.
Yeah.
So, and it was part of empowering myself further to go without the nails and just love my hands
Sure.
the way they were. So I had to overcome that because I didn't want to be that is my source of confidence.
Sure.
Because I really loved, it made my fingers look longer. Because I have short fingers, it made them look skinnier. And it just was an accessory. I felt like I didn't have to wear too much jewelry because my nails just were done so well. And people would comment on my nails. People would come and gather around my desk at the office.
Awesome. Yeah.
And they wanted to see what I've done that week.
Oh.
Yeah.
Nice.
And
Fun, though.
yes, and then people started doing their nails. And now they're doing their nails and I've stopped. So I'm sure they're wondering.
Did you also stop because, you don't want to find, no one's going to replace Stacy?
That's the thing. My nail lady.
Oh.
My nail lady,
There was a bond there.
there was a bond. And
You trust no one else with
I
your
trust
nails?
no one else. And I moved from one area to another and I tried to find a Stacy and I couldn't.
There's no
So there was no in between. It's
I've
either
met her.
Stacy or no nails for me.
it's hard to replace Stacy. I've met her. You guys, oh man, you guys were thick as thieves. It was so funny to be around you guys.
Oh, it was, yeah. I had to really grieve that relationship.
Oh man.
No. You don't have to do that. The time will come, and you know what? You'll start making your trips back there. Maybe not as often, or whatever you want.
Yeah.
No. There's no half measures about
Right.
that. It's I'm there every 2 weeks
Or not.
or never.
Yeah.
And because I know I
You are
can't
dead
make
to me.
it
Then
It's
every 2 weeks, that's ended.
oh
Wow.
man.
That's ended.
Sorry, Stacy.
Sorry.
That's all right. But it is neat though that you were like, you know what? I'm gonna give this up because I want to do some other things, and I don't really want to focus on that.
Yes.
It's like seasons, right? So we had
Exactly.
you have a season where you're doing something, and then you have a little personal growth or just a different direction.
Yes.
And you change things up.
Yes.
I like that.
Well, there is something else I'd say that's kind of interesting as far as like the mixing of world. I'm just going to toss it out there and let's see what comes back. But
Okay.
the mix of what you've got Aaron, who's got the socks and the backward shirt and, the holes in the pants and whatever. Not really. Aaron looks like he's somewhat put together, Yeah. But, as far as like what I thought was interesting, and I kind of discussed it briefly with, the guys when we met, that there may be kind of a bristling effect coming from the male side, seeing a female come in who might even look put together because there's a territorial component. Now I haven't experienced this directly or anything, but almost like this is an area that hard work is done and we don't have time for your nails, Doris. And, you better put that mascara away, girl over there. Like this is this is not an invasion of, a more feminine kind of, it's like the worlds colliding of like a very masculine, heavy arena.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then here comes, which is kind of a change, especially as far as the empowerment piece goes, because to be in there and done up however you want, it's your right. And then you're still getting after it and working as hard, may look different, but as hard as your male counterpart.
Absolutely.
And there may be a little bit of, the misunderstanding of, is that a cue? Or there could be even individuals who are bothered by it, which again, lucky that I have never experienced that, but
I've seen it.
Could be.
I've seen it as a man and been invited to join into it and felt uncomfortable. And I think it is a microcosm of society as a whole. Because like you said, there probably was a time in America, like 30, 40 years ago, where women were not encouraged to go to the gym. The morality was a little bit different as far as if a woman was dressed at like she would need to be dressed to work out very difficult, it was seen as somehow as if she were putting herself out there, right? As opposed to it just being a fully functional deal. And so I've seen it where we're at, where especially older men tend to think that this is a male area, and I am not going to change how I talk or how I speak to women just because women are now here, right? And they somehow, and that you get this sense that they're somehow just a little bit upset that society has changed, not just at the gym, but just society in general. And it makes me uncomfortable because they expect, because there probably was a time when it was a lot more acceptable because it was all men, for them to say things that now they just don't fly. Right. And just as we've learned over the past few decades, certain words have become unacceptable because we're more cognizant. We're more aware of the different groups among us and how they feel about things that we know. We don't like, I can't believe people used to talk that way. Or I can't believe people used to think that way. I can't believe at the beginning of Magnum PI, it was totally acceptable for that guy to walk by and slap a woman on her buttocks. And it played every week. Right. And nobody said a word. There was papers weren't written about it. People weren't boycotting the show. Everybody thought, oh, well, that's normal, right? He's just a healthy male and she's a girl and it's okay. And now, completely unacceptable. And so I have sensed that too at the gym. And it's almost strange in a different way, to be a man and to be like, do I say something to this guy? Or is he just sort of old and you just let him just sort of talk for a second and disengage and hopefully it just ends? Or do you stand up and be like, hey, we no longer say that? It's interesting,
Do you think, Bridget, that the gym is designed to cater for men's needs? I'm asking because, okay, I would probably know this better if I was a regular at the gym, but do we have like a pumping room where new mothers are expressing milk?
That's a really good question. I would say that, I can talk about our gym and the system that I'm within. We do not have anything specific like that for mothers, but it does kind of beg an interesting question. There's so many different changes within, even gender identification and those types of changes within different facilities where you have locker rooms and restrooms, and that's kind of going everywhere. But as far as, no, we don't. But when you're talking about, is the facility kind of designed to really cater to the men and the needs of the male gender? I would say that my conversations and my involvement, in the last year I managed this facility about 14 months, but prior to that, it was 8 years specifically with fitness services and delivering them, and working with staff citywide to have, personal training and Pilates and Zumba and yoga and all those different things. But, certain facilities, just the change of the time a little bit, and budget allowances and things like that, having discussions about what does it look like when you walk in this gym? And is it going to be inviting for everyone kind of thing? And there have been gyms in the system that I work with that have been sort of neglected, and that could be budget reasons, but, rearranging things. So I was, talking about one of our facilities where there were just lots of bench presses all at the front entrance. And not to say that females aren't really using bench presses, but at this facility, it was very heavy male usage on the bench presses, and there were an excessive amount of them. And it just really made this hurdle for anyone to kind of get through. And women really had to kind of almost like run the gauntlet. And, in a bench press situation, especially if you're loading a lot of weight and you're walking up to there and there's, again, a lot of those components of intimidation. They're clanking and, there's somebody who's spotting another person. And so there's, more activity. And if somebody's taking a break, then they just exerted, the individual who was on there just exerted a lot of energy, or they are currently, and there's the grunting or the heavy, which, it let the air out because otherwise, you're going to have a different issue.
Right.
You read my mind.
Yes. So but it can be a lot, and so then to answer the question, it might feel like, well, this isn't like, where's my stuff? Like as a female walking in, like, ugh, like I'm like, I want to get to something that's a little bit more inviting. And I don't feel like, it necessarily is to a point where it's catering. Now, fitness is, I think it's developed to be such a big thing. It's important to kind of, have this whole like buffet type of, experience where you can do things on a machine. You could do it off a machine. You can
take classes.
Take classes, and there's so many things even, for somebody who's, tied to a gym setting, like you were saying, Erin, with your friend who hiking and all those things. It's like there's such a huge spectrum of things to kind of play with. But the gym setting, I think at one point may have felt a little bit catering to a male side. But I think that it's changed so much.
Oh yeah. I think, and that's what's great. I know it's the gym that we use specifically. So I can say, at least from a male perspective, it doesn't seem like it, because when you walk in, there's like posters for what you can take, and there's like people who are totally helpful at the front desk, so it doesn't feel like it's male centric. But I know I can almost guarantee you, if you were to go back in time and just take a snapshot of a gym in like 1965, that it would be very male centric. So I think there's still that thing that we're working with, right? And I think that the perspective of asking the question is now so good that at least you can take that into acknowledgement that might be an issue, so that you do open it up for everyone of any gender to feel comfortable, right? Because that's what we're trying to do, because fitness is not a gender specific issue. Right. And it's really great to talk about the women's issues so that our women listeners can feel more comfortable talking about those things, because it seems like maybe you don't want to bring that up in front of men, or you don't want to talk about that at the gym, but you should be empowered to do those things. And there should be spaces, like maybe there should be areas to express milk, in a part of the gym that, something that a man would just really not know. I think it's so important to just have the discussion so that people are more knowledgeable about what the reasons and the issues are.
Yeah, absolutely. It really helps us be more cognizant and sensitive.
I've learned so much.
And really watch how we act, because a lot of these places should be a safe place for everyone.
Family.
And the more you know, you know, the more equipped you are to be more mindful.
Yes.
You know, so I think all those things that we've talked about are really, really great. You know, just real quick, we talked about spaces where you can express, you know, if a mother was like in a rush, she's just hit the gym, she's like, oh, I gotta get this done. So we've been curious about what the women's locker room looks like, because I've been I had those. Okay, so we're not gonna get into details, but Erin and I have both been in situations where we ended up in either like a women's room or, you know, a women's locker room. There weren't any women in there.
No. Yeah,
but
let's be clear about
we
that.
got a glimpse of what it looks like.
It's
And it
fascinating.
was so nice.
It was so nice.
No.
Seriously.
I feel so cheated.
Snoopy,
Let me just
around.
let me just be clear about my experience.
What
real
was
quick.
his name? Silver Sneaker
Peeper.
No.
Yeah, that's it.
No.
This
This
is your
is
son.
Sneaker Peeper.
I remember I was in trouble in high school. No, it's very surprising that I might have gotten in trouble in high school. And I had to do a Saturday detention. And like one of the coaches came and like gathered some of the guys and had us move some stuff. And we were moving stuff through the women's locker room. And it's a Saturday and there's nobody there. And we were all just like, our jaws dropped, because in our locker room, it was, you know, wooden benches that had been there since, you know, before time began.
The first benches ever.
There was this curious mixture of the smell of heavy sanitizer and sweat, and everything was gray and peeling paint. Right? That's just what it was. Right? Oh, and a nice
accurate.
space for the paddle that you signed if you got in too much trouble from the coach. Right? That's how it was. Right? And then we're walking through the women's locker room, and there's like couches. Things actually look nice. It doesn't smell like the odor of sanitizer and sweat. And we were just shocked, you know, because we had obviously, as a man, you always wonder, right, what goes on in the women's locker room, but just seeing,
Because you guys always want to spend time in there too.
yeah,
Now
we
I
never
get
got
it.
it. We never got it. Men's locker room, you're in, you're out.
Luxury.
You
You're
know,
in, you're out.
girls are going back. You know, hey, you know, I'll go with you. I'm like, okay,
why?
I get it now.
Yeah.
Okay, if the men's room looked like that, I'd probably go have like a little powwow, you know, and just hang out.
Yeah. Can you imagine the couch though? Then we thought about it. Adrian and I talked about it. Can you imagine what the couch would look like in the men's locker room?
Dude,
You don't want
You can't
to.
give us stuff like that.
Yeah, you'd walk in there and there'd be two dudes sitting on it naked, and you'd never sit on it again. You'd
Yeah,
be like,
that's
"Okay,
it. That's it. Some
Yeah.
people would take liberties
Yes.
and ruin it.
Because they do anyway. The men's locker room is an interesting place.
Yeah.
It's
that's
go ahead. Go.
No, so that's why we need women only gyms because of hygiene.
She's like, we don't need that.
No.
We don't need you guys in there.
Man.
Well,
So that kind of, you know, careened wildly
Yeah,
out of
yeah, it was
control.
funny, though.
But, you know, I wanted to bring that up.
Sure.
Because, so, and I brought this up because one time I came to speak to you and there was these nice shower curtains on your table. And I was like, oh, what's going on here? And you're like, oh, these are for the women's locker room.
Not
and I'm
for
like,
you guys.
You're like, what?
wait,
Wow.
no, because I don't think you need to. Okay, some backstory on this. There's no shower stalls in the men's locker room. It's just one room.
Yeah.
With shower heads along the walls, right? Mm-hmm. So it was just a strange. I was like, wait, shower curtains for the what?
Yeah. We could use a curtain in there, by the way.
We could
One
definitely-
curtain.
So
We'll see how you guys use it.
Exactly.
And maybe we'll consider
I don't
another
know.
one.
Maybe
Yes.
not. Maybe not. It's, yeah.
No, I know. I did feel bad about that as far as like, is that an area that's getting neglected? It's funny to hear the honesty from both of you as far as don't put anything in, you know, because it would get destroyed. And, you know, and I have male friends in my life that treat things well. Sure. And then I also have been exposed to males who don't treat things well. I mean, and the same goes for females.
Right.
But, yeah, as far as like the design, I'd say newer facilities probably have a little bit more of equity on both sides.
True. Yeah.
However, it is funny to think, how would certain things hold up if, you know, in the hands of of a collective group such as you two with the honesty of like, it's just going to get ruined.
Oh, true. Yeah. If Adrian doesn't know anything, it's about how groups of men treat things.
We run a all-male transitional.
You can't have anything nice. And it's funny because, and I've learned this a lot from Adrian, because you can't just look at something how you would treat it. That you got to look at what's going to happen when 20 dudes walk in there and they're like, "What's this?" And they shake the same thing 15 times trying to fix it. How come it didn't work right? What's going on? And then, after the 35th guy, it just breaks, right? So you have to account for that. And it's funny because that's the same way at the gym. It's got to be utilitarian. I think that's how it worked out like that.
Probably.
Because again, if you put a nice couch in a locker room, and it's because it's without even thinking. Some guy's going to get out of the shower, towel himself off, and then just sit there while he puts on his clothes in this nice, upholstered fabric. And one guy does that, not that big a deal. When you get, the 45th hundred guy, all of a sudden the couch is growing things.
Mm-hmm. It's about to walk away.
Right, you have to call a squad to come pick it up. It's
the Ghostbusters.
A biohazard.
Ghostbusters.
And it's funny because sometimes stereotypes have a basis in reality, and I think that's one of them.
Could be on this one.
That women will naturally sort of treat things in a different way. Maybe I don't know. Right, like you said, you can't put everybody in the same stereotype.
Right.
But I think in general, that's probably why. And Adrian and I kind of came to that realization. But it is funny though to realize that. You're in this.
You guys
this
have
area.
been missing out on.
Exactly.
Dude,
right.
Man, there were plants in this restaurant.
Right. Plants. Right.
I was.
Oh, tell me what. It was so funny because tell us about that, Bridget.
So speaking of plants, I was thinking that because plants are lovely.
Sure.
Who wouldn't want to have a plant in lots of different places? And I was speaking to one of my staff members who is male, and we were in this area of the facility, and I thought, this area could use a plant. And I barely could get the words out before he squashed it. And he said, people will just spit in there. The guys are going to spit in there.
Yeah.
And I said,
so right.
What? That's so far from what I thought. Plant. And he immediately thought, spit.
Are you serious? Would they spit in there?
Apparently so. There once was a plant. And that was the only one. It got so abused beyond what any plant should be exposed to.
Yeah.
And eventually it
died.
Yeah, it
That's
croaked.
hilarious.
They killed it.
It is funny because in our facility we have about 5 fake trees. We have no real plants.
They're thriving.
Yes.
What's going in there?
You're going so strong.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing. I think there's something about, so because everyone's pretty much aware that they're fake, no one's trying to water the plants, okay? Because I think you just get into this thing like, I'm helping it.
Oh,
or you rinse your mouth and then you spit.
Yeah, it just looks like an appropriate area.
So what are you doing to keep the plants clean? Are you hosing them down?
No.
This is Aaron's department.
When you get in trouble at our facility, if you somehow break the rules, what we do, it's a disciplinary measure, is give you a chore, and if you are an unfortunate recipient of what we call write-ups, you may find yourself dusting the plants. Mm-hmm. But it's great because they can't really break them. I'm like, just take a paper towel, spray some Windex on it, and dust those plants off.
You just kind of like,
wipe
each leaf.
They're like, each leaf? And I'm like, yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so maybe don't do what you did again.
Okay, so you've never had the opportunity to kind of swipe them, take a DNA swipe?
Oh, Lord, no.
No, we haven't.
You just hide behind the plant and wait for somebody to do something.
It's funny you say that.
Oh, yeah.
Was that a tactic you guys use?
No, we do that, but we do that to each other.
Yeah, jokingly.
Just waiting to spring out on someone. Anyway.
Okay, another reason why I won't get a plant at the facility that we
have fun.
Oh yeah, Lou's gonna be jumping from behind that plant and scaring you half to death.
In honor of Lou, and I know some of you have heard this before, so I'm gonna tell this to Doris.
All right,
here we go.
Okay.
Now, a little joke for you. What do you call a noodle in disguise?
I don't know.
An imposter.
I cannot believe it. So Bridget,
big heavy eye
I
roll.
know. So Bridget, you are saying another reason why you won't get a plant.
Yeah.
Just now? Mm-hmm. Oh, for the fact of now knowing that these guys will hide behind them?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then likely turn into creepers? Is that what you're leading to, Doris?
No,
See somebody peeking through the plant, like looking at some girl on the
no. Silver sneaker dude.
silver sneaker peeker.
No, now he's gone. No,
You're like, all of a sudden, you're like, why is there a plant in the window? Was that plant there when we got here?
No,
Keeps
there's not
moving
going to be.
around.
There's not going to be a plant on the window because Bridget is going to say that. Oh, we already have enough creepers.
Yeah.
more.
That's true. Yeah. It's such an interesting discussion, the interplay between men and women in the gym. It's just one of those places where it comes together, right?
Yeah,
Right.
You know, where you have men and women in a place and they're dressed a certain way and everybody's working hard and they're sweating, and it's interesting to say the least. And I would hope, though, especially for our women listeners, that they get empowered, and that for our men listeners, that they learn a little bit about. Because even when you don't, you're like, how could it hurt me? Or how could it hurt somebody just for me to look at them, right? And yet there is such an issue with how women walk through the world, having to be aware of where men are. And that maybe as men, we could provide them at least a space where they don't have to worry about that. Like if you want to talk to them some other time and come up to them and politely ask them out and inquire about their, if they're single or whatever, sure, there's a space for that. And like we talked about, maybe the supermarket, right? Maybe the supermarket is a place to do that. Yeah.
Is popular.
But let's let the gym be a place where individuals can be doing what they want to do without thinking about that, unless somebody makes it just very obvious to you. And that's just something that I wanted to encourage all of our male listeners. And just, I hope that the women become empowered and just, do what they want to do, right?
Yeah.
Wear what you want to wear.
Well
Wear
said.
makeup. Wear whatever. And let's not have to worry about that. Hopefully we can move forward as a society.
Absolutely. Right? Well said. So, man, we've gone a lot longer than we were hoping
we
for.
have.
But
It's
you know
been
what?
great.
I'm not mad.
I ain't mad
I'm
at
not
it.
mad at all. We've had some great laughs.
Yeah.
I've learned I've learned a few things.
Yeah.
I still wish, we had it smelled better in our locker room, but we'll work on that.
We're working on it. It's the thing.
We'll,
Yeah.
Noted.
It's we'll probably work on it for the rest of our lives. But,
Sure.
Everything else about this conversation has been very illuminating.
Yes.
I hope everyone lets us know what they think. If you want to do so, you can reach us on Instagram and on Facebook at TWOTEACHONE. That's 2teachone in all letters. Let us know what you think. Like us on Facebook and Instagram. Join the conversation. Start the conversation. We'd love to hear, what you think. If you also have, suggestions on what you'd like, to hear
please.
us talk about
Yeah.
next, feel free.
Yeah.
Let us know. We definitely want, everyone to get involved in the discussion.
Absolutely. I talk to people who tell me what they think about the show. I'd really love for them to just put it on the website.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know?
And that's interesting because I made that observation too. People would love to give us feedback, right?
Sure, yeah. And we'd love to hear it.
And we like to hear it. What we'd love even more is, follow that up with going on to, our Facebook account, make a comment, say something, and, it'll encourage other people to, join the discussion also.
Absolutely. And I just wanted to say thank you. I'm really glad that Doris was able to make it back.
Welcome back.
Her contribution is invaluable. And I just really wanted to.
Oh, there's just some
very
insights.
welcome.
There's some things that no one
yeah.
else would have said.
Yeah, you have this experience and this wisdom. It's great. And we love having you as part of the team.
And other people love you too.
Oh, yeah. You
See, that's what you don't.
You don't get that. But
Yeah.
what I hear from people when they talk to me about the show, especially when we began, is how much they really enjoyed your input. Because you have this very unique perspective of growing up in Kenya and coming to America. So you've seen both of things. And then you're also a clinician with a long history of experience. And you have all this wisdom and just life experience. And we love it. It's great. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
We love
That's
it and other
really
people do.
Oh, yeah.
encouraging.
Absolutely. Yeah.
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 yeah, people, please let her know.
Oh yeah, talk about Doris.
Talk about it on the Facebook page so we can, because she might think we're making this stuff up.
But we're not.
But all of you guys know who you are. You've told us, time and time again. Oh man, Mom's
guilty.
Great.
Yeah. I'm guilty. I need to put it to words. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So, before we close, is there anything anyone would like to bring up really quick?
Gosh, we covered a lot.
We did cover a lot.
I think it'll be interesting. I hope people do respond because I'm sure there's so much that we didn't cover.
Sure.
Also,
yes.
Yeah, we could. We could have done another couple hours on this topic. It's
probably.
huge.
Yeah. Probably.
Yeah. And I hope people do respond because Bridget is here and she's able to change things.
Yeah.
That's her, that's her industry. She's, she has the power to make a difference.
Absolutely. We love Bridget, her work ethic.
Oh, yeah.
She instills that into everyone around her. And, it just makes it a real pleasure, to go and work out at our gym. And we're not going to really allude to, we'll talk about this. And we've mentioned where we work out.
Mm-hmm.
Bridget isn't here representing, that organization. It's just really great to, have her here to bring some of her insight into this, discussion. And we want you to, give us some pointers, whatever you think, because we've learned a lot, from Doris today. Some very interesting things were brought up. Those things can help, shape the future of what, gyms look like.
Yeah.
Right.
You never
Absolutely.
know.
Yes. Let's have the ladies tell us what their ideal gym of the future looks like.
Yeah. What do you want?
Yeah.
So if you know what, how about we do that? Reach us on Facebook and Instagram at TWOTEACHONE. Let us know if you could build your dream gymnasium or workout space, for women specifically, or one that's more, like just any other gym, but more, with some more features for women. Let us know what that looks like.
Yeah.
That's a great question to put out there.
Cool. You know what? I'll probably go ahead and start some kind of a poll. I'll put it on Instagram and you guys can chime in.
Yeah. And thank you so much, Bridget, for being here.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure to be here. Absolutely. It was fun. Hopefully, anything I put out there was of value, but to spend the time with you guys was a value for me. So,
thank you.
I hope you come back again.
Oh, sure.
You.
Yeah.
We'd love to have you.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Thank you guys.
All right. Well, so with that, we're going to conclude. My name's Adrian.
My name is Aaron.
My name's Doris.
My name's Bridget.
And this is 2teachone. Join us next time. We're going to be talking we're going to actually talk to a couple of our friends who are going to be, it's going to be a discussion about recovery. And we're going to bring two perspectives, one male, one female.
Sure.
And, if you have had someone in your family, or in your life, family, we're born into one family and then, we kind of, gain
another,
one, as we go through life. So if you've been touched by, addiction, in any way, shape or form, or if you haven't, you'll probably hear, something, new, and at least gain some insight, if nothing else. All right. So please join us again. And, for now, that's it.